Do you ever feel like the odd man out? Like no matter what you do or how you do it, you seem to get the short end of the stick. And as soon as you feel like you've moved around it or gotten it to go away, it seems to pop right back up. Well, the artist we're going to talk about today has had a life filled with those situations. And when the dust settles, he seems to be the odd man out and receiving the short end of the stick. But at the same time, he's showing no signs of giving up or laying down. That man is Quando Rondo. All right, before we get started with the story, make sure you stick around to the end because that's where you're going to learn about the giveaway. Quando Rondo, whose real name is Taekwon Bowman, was born on March 23, 1999 in Savannah, Georgia. Quando Rondo got his stage name from people calling him Taekwondo and from Rajon Rondo being one of his favorite players in the NBA. From as early as 2 years old, you can tell he was dealt a terrible hand. When he was 2, he was taken from his parents. According to him, he was told that there was a fight between his parents and he ended up getting burnt with a hot iron. Apparently, the police didn't like the fact that his mother thought the burn wasn't that bad and got CPS involved. He ended up being adopted by his father's mother's sister. Let me say that again for y'all. His father's mother's sister. Really his great aunt, but he calls her grandmother. So that's how we're going to refer to her, just to keep the story from being too confusing. Quando Rondo actually stated that he and his immediate family wasn't that close on his dad's side of the family. So even at an early age, he started to feel like he was the odd man out and that he didn't belong. Now I know as a child, you don't know if that's how you feel because you can't even form the words or the thought process behind it, but that doesn't mean that those feelings aren't there. That may have been what led him to start a life of crime when he was just 11 years old. Actually, it was his grandmother who was the first person who led the cops to Quando. He stated that when he was out with his cousins, he got into an argument and they started to fight. Now, according to him, it was one of those cousin brotherly type of fights, nothing too serious. But his grandmother did not feel the same and called the cops on him. And into the system he went. Yet again, he was the odd man out and received the short end of the stick. Now, this is where one of two things could have happened. One, he could have made the decision to avoid all trouble in order to get out and stay out of the system. Or two, he can decide that this is the life that chose him. So why change now? What would y'all choose? Now, what do you think Quando Rondo chose? If you chose the second option, then you're right. That was just the beginning of a juvenile life of crime for him. He kept going in and out of the juvie system for things such as not following his house arrest, cutting off his ankle monitor, fighting, stealing, and all kind of other things. His biggest charge came when he was around 15. He and a friend was riding around in a stolen car that had a weapon in it. The police attempted to pull him over and they hopped out and ran. Quando Rondo was caught and given 2 years for possession of the stolen car and a gun since his friend was not caught. He was released shortly before turning 17, and after he was released, he went back to his grandmother's house where he was kicked out soon after. As a result, he went to live with his biological mother, and he said she seemed to be doing well at this point. Before, he was not really in position to be a mother. She had stopped doing hard drugs and was just smoking weed at the time that he moved in with her. That was up until her mother died, which caused a switch in her to flip. According to Quando, she began lashing out at everyone in the family, including him and his brother. They were soon kicked out of her place as well. Again, short end of the stick, Quando Rondo seemed to be getting the theme here. By this time, he was already rapping and trying his hand in music. And in 2018, he dropped the I Remember freestyle video of him beating on a car and rapping, and it received a lot of attention. So much so that when he recreated the song in a booth, he got a feature from Lil Baby. And that song took off. On YouTube alone, the video that went with the studio recorded version has 83 million views today. Today, that song is platinum and is the reason why Quando Rondo blew up the way he did. After this song, he got a lot of attention from label offers and big labels as well as local labels. With the local offers, he said he could feel the fake love, seeing as how they weren't really showing love or that type of love before, which is understandable. If you had been through all he had been through in his life, you would feel the same. Quando said to this day he still can't really tell who really has love for him, and I couldn't imagine feeling like that. But as I said before, as a lot of labels were calling, one of them ended up being Baby from Cash Money. And at one point he was actually going to sign to Cash Money Records. Baby wanted to fly him out to Miami to get the deal done, but at the time, Quando Rondo was on probation, and his probation officer didn't believe him when he told her about the trip to Miami and what it was for. Now this kind of ended the deal with Cash Money Records, but luckily it didn't end his career. He ended up signing with NBA YoungBoy's record label alongside Atlantic Records. He said when he first got his advance, he said he blew his money in a couple of months. More times than not, that situation ends horrible for people. He went on to make money from shows and other investments while also making more music that helped his brand grow. On YouTube, he has multiple music videos that have surpassed that 1 million view mark. So just imagine what his other streaming numbers are, when you include Spotify, iTunes, you name it. But things aren't always going to go great. He has had minor smoke with other artists such as NLE Chopper, but nothing compared to his situation with the Chicago legend King Von. According to Quando Rondo, he wasn't even aware that the two had problems. Rumors say that it was actually King Von and NBA Youngboy that had issues, and that Quando Rondo being a part of Youngboy's camp what made him seem like an op to King Von. The tension came to a head one night after a club that both Quando and King Von were in attendance. Something kicked off, and afterwards both crews were outside when King Von attacked Quando Rondo. This fight led to Quando Rondo's right-hand man shooting at King Von's crew, which caused the death of King Von and some of his crew. This created a huge outrage with fans, most of which sided with King Von, who was actually one of my new favorite rappers. Now, I'm sure King Von's people will always want Quando Rondo's head, which is understandable. But the fans seem to turn on Quando Rondo for simply defending himself, for actually his homeboy defending him. If the situation was the opposite, I personally think King Von wouldn't have been hated or turned on by the public, but that's not the case. Yet again, Quando Rondo seems to be receiving the short end of the stick and becoming the odd man out, which is something that he's been living with throughout his entire life. I, for one, am not taking a side in this because I have nothing to do with that situation, but I would like to know where you guys fall in at. I think the entire situation is a messed up one, but there are a lot of lies that are affected from it, and some people are going to want some sort of results. I think that anyone who was in Quando Rondo's position or his homeboy's position would have done the same thing if their life or their friend's life was in danger. I also understand that King Von and his crew will be extremely angry and want payback. What I don't agree with Quando on is the fact that he made diss records after King Von's death. First one being In the Story, which is a play off King Von's Crazy Story series. I think that only added fuel to the fire of a situation that was already past the point of fixing. I don't think that was a smart move for his livelihood or his business endeavors. At this point, it's been reported that there's been so much smoke and pressure on Quando Rondo from King Von's side that concerts and promoters are scared to book because they're scared of what could happen. On King Von's part, I feel like he started an unnecessary fight that caused him to be shot and lose his life. These two shouldn't have ever gotten to the point in the first place. I don't think this will ever be fixed, but we all have seen some impossible stuff happen before, so I will never say never. Even though Quando Rondo is the odd man out, that doesn't mean he still doesn't have a lot of support from fans. I mean, he took a big hit in that department, but at the same time, he still has millions of fans watching and listening to him. And again, this is a situation that he seems to be well equipped to handle. So just like every other time he was given a short end of the stick, he made a way. I think he'll do the same again, but he has to really be careful how he moves and ensure his safety. I'm not saying you should move scared, but I'm saying move smart. And Quando, keep your head up, man. And to all of you that are following the story as this happened, I hope you can see some lessons in it. Quando Rondo wasn't supposed to be successful. He was supposed to live a life of crime and never leave a block. He did the complete opposite, even after being dealt one of the worst hands you can be dealt. And I know a lot of you can relate. He also taught you things not to do, such as fuel a fire that has no positive ending in the first place. From King Von, you can learn that sometimes you should just walk away. He was on his way to superstardom, but that take no prisoners lifestyle backfired on him. He also had another side that showed him making sure that everyone he grew up with was fed and that he created a lot of love between him and his people. He has fans and people close to him that will never let his name die. That's another lesson to be learned. As for this video, thanks to all you that made it this far. Make sure that you subscribe, like, and share this video with your people. Before you click off, just know that we're giving away $250 when we reach 1K subs. It's free to enter. You have nothing to do. You have nothing to lose. You should also follow our IG page because that's how we'll contact the winner.